Nice.
Oh, okay. We are live recording. What up, everyone? Fantasy NFL Today show. We got Brian here, the model man, projection guy, whatever those are some dumb nicknames we can invent. Fresh off the Super Bowl, his team won. I was telling him the Eagles were the best team in the league since week 6, and he just said no, no, no. Official? Can we officially say it now?
I would assume so. That's normal what a Super Bowl does.
Yeah, Eagles won, and Brian was there on the ground. So we're gonna hear about that. We were trying to do this pod earlier, but he was sick. I assume that's what happens when your team wins the Super Bowl and you're in New Orleans. Just making it out alive is probably a win. But so anyone, we're gonna be doing one pod a week on the on our so subscribe to YouTube. Join the feed. We're gonna be covering all sorts of stuff in the off season as we slowly inch towards the next season. But so Brian, what's up?
Not much. Yeah, the Super Bowl is pretty fun to go to, especially when you go to the one that your team spanks maybe goat quarterback in.
Set the stage. So game Sunday, you get to New Orleans, what, Thursday?
I got in Friday night, but like my travel day started Thursday. I had a bunch of packing, all that stuff to get done. Friday night we got there. It was like a 90-minute wait just for Ubers at the airport. Like the line was like the whole airport. So we just like got a quick rental. I was like 30 minutes outside the city just because didn't feel like spending up on that hotel.
Of course.
Yeah, we were like in a random, like it was like a trailer that was an office for a booze cruise that was 8.5 with an Airbnb. Was like they definitely just did it as a way to maybe get people to pay money because it's Super Bowl.
Yeah. Was this your first live Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's probably
Okay.
first and last.
Oh, really?
It's a bucket list thing. I was like, I'll do it once. Not last because I enjoy it. It's just it's so pricey, and so it's like it's so corporate. There's so many things to do there. So it's like, all right, like I'll do it all or all that I wanted to, and then just kind of.
So highs and lows, like what's, the celebrities, the other athletes, is it just what I think it would be? You're just running into people?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. You remember Ndamukong Suh?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I just like walked past him. I was like, "You're a big boy." It's like in the middle of New Orleans, walking past him. We did the World War II museum, and like right as it was closing, there was like some big event, like a hoity-toity event with like famous NFL people. We like walked past Trey Wingo. There are a few others you could kind of see. I'm trying to think. I did like a tailgate pregame thing, which was at the Pelican Stadium, which is like
That's cool.
Caesars, the Superdome and Pelicans are like right next to each other. So to get into the Super Bowl, they basically made like a perimeter. And then in that perimeter, once you got through the perimeter, you could kind of go wherever you wanted to walk around. So like you could walk into and out of those stadiums as you wanted. But that tailgate included like all you can eat, all you could drink, and there were like Ludacris was there performing. So like every middle school song that you remember that he was featured on, he played.
The dream. Oh, after about 3 pops, it's got to be.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to think, Dawkins showed up there. Justin Jefferson was there. They had like a Trey Wingo talked with like, I think it was Justin Jefferson, Brian Dawkins. Who was Dante Hall was the Chiefs guy, the old returner.
Yeah, he's the best.
And then Terrell Davis was there.
That's a murderous route.
It was definitely cool to see that. And then like once the tailgate ended, we like, where the FanDuel Kick of Destiny was.
Yeah.
We like went to that field to meet up with my cousin had a friend. And like Marshawn Lynch was playing football with like little kids. You just like see him. So that was kind of cool. He's just a funny looking character.
Yeah, he's crazy. Anything you wish if you would have done, like anything you missed, was either too expensive, too big a line?
I mean, if you ever go to New Orleans, the World War II Museum is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like we just didn't have enough time to do it. If you like World War II history, highly recommend that. We just didn't have enough time to do everything. And then
What was the coolest thing in the World War II museum?
I mean, from the US standpoint, it was like you got to like see what events happened and like their order, and it like showed you this is how people voted of going into the war now. And then like as each event occurred, you kind of saw like the tables twist, and then just the detail they went in and like each Pacific, the obviously Normandy and all that stuff. It was just pretty cool history if you like that.
Yeah. Who doesn't? We'll have to do a Sportitos World War II history pot.
Yeah. But then like I'm trying who was the one at the game, like Superdome is it's a beautiful, like it's super clean and beautiful inside. And like we were upper section, but I got just the way it's set up, like we were kind of middle of the upper section. You could see everything. It didn't feel like you were very far away, which was nice. I was sitting in between some Chiefs fans too, but like it was like I was with my uncle who's a bit older, so like we wanted to sit and not stand. And luckily the two Chiefs fans that were like 2 rows ahead of us that were standing didn't have much reason to stand much of the game after. So that was a good thing.
What's this? What was the split? Chiefs, Eagles fans.
It was probably like 60. It was probably like 65-35, but like you didn't really hear them.
Chiefs, Eagles, Chiefs 65.
Right now, Eagles 65.
Okay.
The city was like 10-1. A bunch of Philly people went to New Orleans. They just weren't at the game. The game was a bit more closer to even, but it was still like you couldn't hear Chiefs fans.
Okay, wow. And then so before the game, like what I guess you're just in the bubble, so probably not even consuming all the like the Luka trade. Were people talking about that?
Yeah, I mean I think that was prior to me leaving. Because I think Anthony Davis just got hurt when I got there. So it was like, all right.
But like, were you nervous? Right? The game was spread was close. Chiefs never lose.
I mean, I was definitely nervous. It was like I want to say deep down I had a good amount of confidence. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought the ticket. Like that, the Eagles team. I mean, as they kind of showed, was just like it was a pretty dominant team. It was shout out to Howie Roseman for building that team. I don't think like Jalen Hurts is he's a above average quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I don't think he's top 5 even after that win. Fantasy is top 5, but not for real. So I would say just the overall team is one of the better teams I've seen in a while, just top to bottom, talent-wise. The amount of Hall of Famers that might be on that team is pretty absurd. So
how do you think they stack up historically? Like, let's say you put this Eagles team against the best Chiefs team. Do you think, like, obviously Eagles aren't going to blow them out, but
I mean, the best Chiefs teams, I don't think I've ever had an offensive line that could do anything with that Eagles deep. Like the Eagles didn't blitz once. They had like a 50% pressure rate with 0 blitzes.
Well, that's the right. I mean, that's how the Giants beat Brady, right? That's if you can do it, you're pretty much unstoppable.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty hard to beat. Like there are teams maybe with great offensive lines that could have kind of paused that, but I just think that's the reason they won. Jalen Hurts he's just the reincarnation of Russell Wilson. I still believe it. Like he can win and do great with a great defense, and he can make some big plays and he won't hurt you. And I mean, that's kind of what he did. I mean, he made some plays with his feet. They honestly did a great job stopping Saquon in that game. Like Saquon was not efficient at all, but it's the fact that they had to stop him.
Were you on the pod we did earlier when I was talking about numbers? Like if I was told you that Saquon had 25 rushes for under 60 yards, Chiefs win by 10?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just the way it works.
It's just, I mean, yeah, they went full out to stop him. It worked. Eagles had more talent elsewhere that they could just kind of take advantage of.
Yeah, I gotta disagree with you. The Russ thing. I think Russ did a lot with less, right? He never had an O-line. His receivers weren't really great, right? He had Marshawn. Like he was kind of the whole offense, right? Where Jalen is surrounded by star talent.
Maybe I think they're pretty equivalent, and I think maybe I don't know. I mean, the Eagles team is set up. They have a lot of rookie contracts, and their studs are pretty much all paid already. So like they're set up to kind of continue this. So it'll be interesting to see. But like that Seahawks run with Russ, I think could be pretty similar to this run that the Eagles will have with Hurts.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you think so next season, Eagles, we'd say they're like prohibitive favorite? especially since the NFC is not really, a threat.
I mean, that's the thing is like Lions lost both their coordinators. Commanders are, I mean, they're good, but like part of the Commanders team is going to be way different, I think, next year. And it just does everyone come together like they did this time. They kind of had the chip on their shoulder. No one wants us here type thing.
No one believes in us.
Yeah, like I think that could change maybe.
No, yeah, for
Right.
sure. I mean, we saw with Stroud too, right? Rookie QBs, you kind of have that meteoric rise. It's really hard, I think, to run it back a second year. I think
Yeah,
sophomore slump is a real thing.
I think Jaden Daniels is legit. It's just they're going to have to start. I mean, it's a good thing. They have a bunch of cap space and they have money to spend. It just doesn't gel as much.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think CJ Stroud's legit too. You want another road playoff game, right? But it's just you get all this hype, this expectations, right? I could see him getting hurt early next year, and then they have a kind of lost season. Other threats, NFC. I think Niners. I haven't heard from Jason a little bit, but I think Niners are going to be legit. A real.
Yeah, I could see him. I mean, they like when you make a long playoff run, a lot of the times the losing Super Bowl team for some reason just doesn't have the best year the next year. I like teams who make consistent runs tend to be banged up. They're banged up. They're older. Debo wants out. Like they got a bunch of people that are potentially out. CMC, we'll see about. I wouldn't be surprised if they're great again. Just Kyle Shanahan, I trust him. Just gotta defense needs to kind of get better, and they need some help.
Yep, and the schedule, right? The last place schedule that Jason said that really stuck with me. I heard a thing. Falcons. Who was the Falcons coach when they lost to the Pats in the Super Bowl? Is Shanahan or he's huh? Was Shanahan the coordinator?
Shanahan was a UC, yeah.
Yeah, no. So I remember he said something about when the teams that lose the Super Bowl, what happens is they think that they're one step away from being back there. But he's like, no, what you have to do is you have to start at ground zero. You can't build on from where you are. You got to go back. And that's what teams fail to do. They think they're so close that they just can kind of just hit the ground running and not put in the foundational work. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And because it's the team that lose Super Bowl. They always suck. It's crazy. Like, it doesn't make any sense, especially if it's a close Super Bowl. You only lost by a play or two. So you're essentially the same team, the best team in the world, and then now you can't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the only teams you've really seen not suck are the Pats and the Chiefs, and they have two quarterbacks who are just ultimate competitors. So I think that's pretty telling.
So there's a bunch of rumor mills. So we got a lot of QB flux, right? I've been writing a lot about mistakes and doing division reviews and stuff. Big theme was like the power of an offense. We'll just pit a little fantasy here. From going from inept to competent. Right. So like with the Falcons, we saw they had no QB since Ryan. They got Drake London. They had all these weapons, but they couldn't do anything. You get, Kirk Cousins, who washed or whatever, but he made the offense competent. And look at all, Darnell Mooney, Drake London, fantasy superstars. Bijan was like there before. So potential teams like we got Stafford, who might be in the mill. Cousins, he might be done, but Rodgers got released. So what offenses do you see that could maybe make this jump from inept to competency with just a QB upgrade?
Trying to think who was inept.
Great, like Raiders, Giants.
Yeah, Raiders still had Bowers.
Yeah, but they have weapons, but it's because the QB, like inept. QB play.
It's gonna be whoever gets the free agent QBs, because like rookie QBs again, other than Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud, and those are two, in my opinion, anomalies, and this rookie class is nowhere close to them. I think whoever drafts a rookie QB and starts them, I would stay away from there. I think it's the team that ends up, if Rodgers ends up, last I saw was maybe the Titans.
Ugh.
I wouldn't hate that. Like, dump off to Pollard if they don't get another. I mean, we can touch on running backs a little later with the draft class, but I'm thinking, Giants, I'd just love to see Neighbors with a good QB. I think Daniel Jones, it was almost underrated how much, like, it was a very smart move by the Giants to just let him go because he was still competent enough to win them some games. And I think the fact that they got rid of him just says, like, all right, we're just trying to lose. So if they can get any competent quarterback there. I could see Neighbors going off. Otherwise, if they end up with a rookie, he's not going to be my favorite. Great talent. It's just like I don't trust it, and he just so many targets and gets banged up so much. I wouldn't be surprised if he's at injury risk. I mean, the team that sticks out to me is Jacksonville. If Lawrence can get back and healthy, I think that's a offense that can definitely explode. They get Liam Cohen going in there, as annoying as he might be early. Yeah, like I think he could very much make that offense way better. And that's an offense I might be buying into. Etienne on the buy super low on him. And then
Yeah.
I mean, the ceiling is the roof for Brian Thomas, right? Like he could be crazy.
Ceiling is the roof. I like it.
That's what Michael Jordan said. Don't you remember?
Oh,
He went at a pep rally for UNC and he just said the ceiling is the roof and everyone went nuts and no one knew
I don't know what it means, but it sounds almost like using it.
Yeah, it's something stupid. But yeah, I mean I think Jacksonville's probably the team I keep an eye on the most. Because like the QB there, you see the talent, new offensive coordinator. Bears is probably the other easy one just because of Ben Johnson. What does he do there? Was he carried by Ray?
Philip, right? Second year QBs as a But so like let's use Stafford. Stafford is he's my better Mendoza, right? He's probably above average QB, right? But he's probably the 12th to 14th best QB. All right, maybe even higher. But just like if he went to the Raiders, like I might take Brock Bowers 4th overall, right? Let's say he goes to the Giants. Where would you take Neighbors? Stafford and the Giants. Is he top 5, top 4? Do you take him first?
I mean, I could be wrong. Giants O-line is just god awful. Maybe because I watch them a lot against the Eagles, but like they're so bad. Like I wouldn't even want Stafford to go there. I wouldn't think he'd succeed there unless they just draft a bunch of O-linemen. I think I'm trying to think of those teams that have a okay O-line.
Tennessee, right? They had was it Callahan, the O-line guru?
Yeah. Like if they can get a good QB there and then the guru can kind of do his thing, I think that could be a team. It's just who's their weapon. Like Calvin Ridley, yeah, I guess. I could see them drafting kind of both a lot of positions on offense, but this draft isn't really super heavy in wide receivers.
That's what they say, yeah. What about Pittsburgh? Say Steelers Stafford goes to Pittsburgh. Pickens, like second round?
I don't like Pickens. He just seems like the classic Pittsburgh wide receiver who he's here 1 or 2 more years and then he goes somewhere else and just flames out because they don't know what to do with him. I'm not willing to bet on him just because of that volatility. Yeah, he could go off by all means. That's just not. I'm much more willing to lose with him going off than I am win with him going off. Like I'm not taking that bet.
Okay, yeah, that's probably smart. But okay, let's go to the model, right? So we had the year of the model. I think it worked pretty well. But first year doing anything, it's like you're just kind of move fast and break things, right? That's kind of my philosophy. We talked about it before, but what's like any regrets or things you think you should have seen coming that were obvious in retrospect, or just things you're going to use next year?
I mean, a lot. I do like a lot of the way I get the betting lines in there. It's just it's the timing of, hey, we need this on the site at XYZ date. So I'm using older lines and then it might not. Capturing all the injuries is a bit of a pain and that changes a lot. But I would say, I mean, a big thing we kind of talked about previously, which I'm still trying to figure out how to work with, is like volatile players. How do we rank them? Like your Nick Westbrook. Yeah, like a Pete Pickens or like Nick Westbrook-Akine has just scored a touchdown in like 8 straight games, but that's all he's done. Like, I still don't think he's going to do well, but it's like trying to kind of balance that and like the Pickens where, I mean, Pickens is a bit more like he gets more receptions, but I don't know, like your Deshaun Jackson types where it's like, there will be like 4 or 5 games in the season where they go for like 150 and 2 touchdowns. and then they're going to go for like 4 for 40 in the others. Like, so it's just trying to balance that of where do we like rank them, and then how do we, looking at the ranks, kind of take into account upside and downside.
What about like the Eagles are great? I mean, right? We saw that stat the first half season. Number one wide receivers were getting like nothing, right? But if it's still high total, right? Terry McLaurin, like, is there a way to like you just I don't know, like double down on the projection where it's like he might get 72 in a normal game. Now it's Philly, he's projected for 60, but really he's the way the game is going, he's going to get like 30. But or you just don't want to overreact to these kind of samples.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the season, it's like end of the season, the projections tend to just get better in general because you have more data. So one crazy game on whether it's defensive or offensive won't be accounted for as much. And now that I have like 2 seasons of backup data, I can kind of maneuver that, because in order to make it at the beginning of the year, I kind of average the data with previous seasons.
Sure, of course.
And if there's not a previous season of data, like for rookies, then it's kind of with whatever the average wide receiver would do. So there might be better ways of getting like, this is what an average first round receiver might do, but I might need more data of that instead of like, this is just what the average NFL wide receiver will do with the 20% target share.
It's probably pretty close for rookie, like Marvin
Yeah.
Harrison Jr. That was probably nailed right on. But then he was going to be 1-0 week 2 at 130 yards in the first quarter, and then
and like he didn't do that. He wasn't a first round pick like people drafted him to be.
no, God no, thank God I did. What about teams like the Ravens, right, where they had like the worst pass defense in the league for maybe 6 weeks, and then they moved Marlon. No, they moved Hamilton to safety, right? And then now they got a great pass defense, but like, can you see in real time after the first couple weeks that they're only giving up like 150 passing yards rather than 350? Because your model's still going to be using those first 6 games where they're giving up 300 passing yards a game.
Yeah, I mean, a big benefit of that is the point totals. Because normally when you have the Vegas knows better than like I'm not smarter. Me myself is not smarter than Vegas, so that's kind of the one thing I always will trust is just their point totals are lower, then obviously the yardage is going to be lower. The averages will kind of balance out as the defense proves more. So kind of like I said, like if you have 3 terrible games and then 2 good games, like it'll average out a bit. And like maybe if it's 3 terrible games, 1 good game, like do I know that good game's coming from longer? So like it tends to kind of average out as we go. And then plus when I keep some previous season data in the projections, it'll help kind of balance it out so it's not as volatile.
Okay, but then sometimes your model is smarter than Vegas, right? Remember that Miami game when Huntley been in and they were getting like 200 all-purpose yards. Tua was back, and explained to me it was something about the yards per point you said was off, and you're like, bet Tua, and I did, and he threw for like 350, and his number was like 220.
Yeah, I mean, it was so like part of it was almost like, all right, I'm not gonna. Part of me didn't want to lean into it as much because obviously, like when you're not scoring as much, it's normally because you're turning the ball over more, and then when you turn the ball over more, your yards per point is technically higher normally because it takes you more yards to get a point. Normally, you want like lower yards per point, which means your offense is efficient.
Okay.
Like that Detroit Lions game where they had like 50 yards, but like 4 touchdowns. I forget what game it was. Like that's efficient play. They weren't efficient previously. But the defense, the big thing, I think it was against the Patriots. The defense they're playing also gave up a crap ton of yards per point. So it's like that combo made my projections absurdly high. But I kind of trusted it a bit more just because of the defense. And it wasn't just, hey, this offense team is terrible. Like that's because obviously Huntley was there. But now that you have a bit of the defense kind of helping the numbers, that's what I like the most about that.
But yeah, so obviously that's not a common occurrence, but like maybe for next season, if we get that perfect storm, is that like, let's put $3,000 on Tua?
I mean, yeah, I'm not putting that much, but yeah.
Okay, no, because I mean, I think his number was like two and change. I think he had that at HackCon, right? It was,
Yeah.
that was great. I just love those moments with the model. What about, so have you done any like posts? I know you had the Super Bowl, but like, have you looked at what then any projections were, and if there were any, I know you're conservative, but anything that just stuck out as being something you were off on, or that you were nailed on, to build for the next season?
I mean, as always, kind of volume's king. So, like, where do I think there's gonna be? I mean, I mostly look at running backs because, like, that's where like volume tends to matter the most with rushing, and then obviously receiving volume. And I'm not like going into next year. I'm pretty worried about the running back position. Yeah, like this was kind of a big year for running backs, but
Comeback year, yeah, bro. All these veteran running backs who switched teams all had insane years.
I think it was kind of a perfect storm because the draft class sucked last year.
Okay.
So draft class sucked, and a lot of them hit the open market and went to good teams. So normally a good team could potentially draft somebody in the first or second round at the end of it, and that player can kind of fill in. There wasn't too many of those running backs in the draft last year, so they spent up a little bit more. I mean, they didn't spend too much. Like Saquon's making $12 million. Like that's like a wide receiver 4 nowadays.
So you're
But
talking about like the Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd, obviously Bussett was great. Okay.
so like I think because that running back class was so not great, like normally you have way more than that. I think this was I heard this was like the first year in 11 years that 2 rookie running backs didn't make the top 24.
Oh wow. Obviously we know the one, but yeah. Who was the second best?
I can't remember. I didn't, but I was just like, the class as a whole wasn't good.
Tucker
Now
Gracie, maybe?
maybe, but he came on at the end.
Well, he
I
was
can't
pretty
think
good.
of anyone else who was really even in it. But like now you come in, we have Genty, there's Scadaboo, there's that like Hampton guy, I think, out of UNC. I might be getting the name wrong. There's both Ohio State running backs. Like there's a bunch of running backs that I think are like solid day 2 picks. And I think like I'm not going to buy into a lot of the free agent movement this year unless they go to like a 49ers offensive line and Eagles offensive line, but like I don't see that happening. So I do think like I'm going to spend up a lot on the running backs I know have volume that don't draft a rookie running back this year. But the ones that do, like, it's going to be a crazy season, I think, by the end of the year of like how many rookie running backs start taking over the backfield. Like
Okay.
the start of the year to the end of the year, I think it's going to be pretty different. So this might be a big year to everyone's loving the running backs, but this might be a big year to do kind of a 0 RB approach. And then just start
4 rookie running backs.
Yeah, start shotgunning the rookie running backs this year instead of the rookie receivers.
And then just hope for, it's a little luck. So I've been doing this. So yeah, I've been doing some research on my do not draft guys, but I'm doing more like do not draft teams. And there's so many kind of age cliffs, right? Like wide receiver, it's like 31 fall off a cliff, right? We had Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill. I mean, Devontae was good. Mike Evans is about to hit that. And a few more. Is there any way your model like could factor that in? Like, I'm trying to think of a wide receiver who had a really good year, like Tyreek Hill, right? But I guess in reverse, right? He hits that age clip. He hits 2,000 yards 2 seasons ago. I don't even know what he had this year, like 800.
I mean, I think that's a bunch of it is kind of back to the volume play. Is like they get banged up and they're not past the ball as much. Like in general, I do tend to kind of bring their yards per catch. Like in a Tyreek situation, normally his yards per catch is higher than most people.
Sure, 16 or
In season long projections, I normally kind of bring it back down like 15, 20% back to the normal. So that in general will kind of bring him down a little bit. If you do that plus some decreased volume, then you'll kind of see the decrease. But it is hard to see because a lot of that, in my opinion, comes from injury, which I try not to predict.
No, maybe this railway. Yeah, Keenan was banged up. Evans had the hamstring. Yeah, but that's it. That's part of it. You get older, you get a little slower, you get a little more injury prone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
like
it's like
Keenan I had because he was on a team that like there were 3 other targets. So when you get spread out that much, obviously his volume's down. So
yeah, the
he's
30% target share in LA, right? It's down to 20. Yeah. But then running backs too, it's like kind of 28, right? We just had like Joe Mixon, Jacobs, Derrick Henry, I guess Saquon. They're all around the same age. Derrick Henry's older, right? But they all essentially had career years. Will your model have project like 15% less for kind of all of them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be that's more of a personal thing is like, all right, so I have whatever they're set to do, and then personally I can say I don't think Saquon can hold up with that same workload again. So maybe Kenny Gainwell gets a little more, maybe they draft like a 4th round running back and he gets in. I think it's gonna be that's more the personal side of like, hey, I'm pay way too much attention to football. I can kind of tell what's going on. Or like I know Derrick Henry still looks great when he's like got ahead of steam, but like the moment one thing is wrong, he kind of like falls apart. In my opinion, whether it's the O line or everything, but like when he's in a perfect situation, he'll get you the 120. But just kind of, I personally can model that in more with just the volume and bringing some of the efficiency down.
What about running? It seems like running backs with these mobile QBs get this big bump, right? James Cook with Josh Allen was great. Henry, obviously, with Lamar. Saquon with Jalen Hurts. Obviously, the 2 Washington guys weren't that great with Jay Daniels, but like, is that something too you could factor in the model? Like, let's just say, James Cook gets shipped out. Does Ray Davis get this Josh Allen bump, even though maybe you might not get the touchdowns?
Yeah, a lot of that is just from the team side. So I kind of model it based on the team side. And the team side gives me like what I think for the year. Sorry. Team side gives me like what I think for the year, the rushing yards, passing yards, all that will be. And then everything else is kind of split out by who do I think is going to get this piece of the pie. So like the Bills, like their team is always more efficient on the ground. Same with the Ravens, same with the Eagles. So that's kind of built into their team wide. And then obviously Saquon gets a big piece of the rushing. That's why I was pretty high on him this year. If James Cook leaves because he wants 15 million, which is way too much, then yeah, Ray Davis is going to be absurdly high. Him and Ty Johnson, unless they don't add another guy, are just going to be absurdly high in my rankings, probably compared to others. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just because there's so much bigger of a pie in that offense.
Okay. Anyone else jump out of you? Like, I'm just trying to think, maybe like Bucky Irving, right? Maybe his overall stats weren't that great, but the way he finished the year, I mean, he's probably what is top 5 running back next year, like something,
I'm
top
serious
7.
with it. I'm not like touching any running back rankings until the draft because I really think this draft is going to make a big difference. So like,
So
yes, he doesn't.
maybe Deontay would go before Bucky.
Deontay who?
Isn't he the rookie running back?
Oh, Genty.
Genti, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think he's more talented,
Okay.
but I don't know if they spend the draft. Like, I don't like the Jets. Why did the Jets draft 2 rookie running backs last year when they had Brees Hall? Like, it's hard to tell what people do. I think Bucky's kind of safe because Rashad White has 1 more year on contract, so it's like might as well just stick with that and then maybe draft someone the following year.
They got Sean Tucker too.
Yeah, like they have competent running backs on. I mean, if I were a GM, I wouldn't spend that draft capital on the running back just because they already have competent ones.
I didn't mean Tampa take Genti. I meant for fantasy.
I mean, yeah, I think Genty. If Genty's on the Cowboys, he's a top 5 pick. Like, if he lands on a team that you know is just going to feed him, I think he's a top 5 pick.
Oh wow! Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm not gonna.
It's like similar like a Bijan. Like when he was there, even Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a 1st-round pick. Like,
Yeah, but that's a bust.
The Chiefs. It was a bust, yeah, but like people will get the hype and deservedly so, just because you've seen people go. Like you've seen those highly drafted running backs go off.
Yeah, and I guess there's less adjustment too, right? It's sort of like get the ball and run, and
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna wrap up here. What's anything else from the Super Bowl that was memorable? Like leaving New Orleans, where you were there might be a riot. You know, Philly fans are crazy.
I mean, no, I was kind of bummed because the stadium was so far from like Bourbon Street.
Ah, okay,
And then you had to walk so far just to get an Uber. Then you had to wait so long to get an Uber that like,
that'd be my nightmare.
yeah, like I don't know how many people from this. I mean, I'm sure enough people from the stadium made it out to like Bourbon and the French Quarter, but like there, it was pretty difficult logistically to actually get there
Oh,
unless you wanted to walk a super long way. Because it was probably like a 20 to 30 minute walk.
that's not that bad. If you're a few pops in, you won the Super Bowl. I mean, it's like
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I was again with like an older uncle, so I wasn't meant to do that, but I was a bit bummed on that side because it was just you're just watching like sad Chiefs fans who won't say anything because they know Eagles fans will just not actually murder them, but like murder them with disses and stuff.
yeah, and
And you
it's
just,
like hyenas. Once one goes, they all just like circling, right?
oh yeah, and then I don't know if you saw the parade, but like seeing how just absurdly drunk some of the Eagles players were, it was kind of funny.
What was it? So I don't. Is that the ideal Super Bowl where it's like you're in front the whole time, you just get to enjoy it? There's no sweat, or would you rather come down to the wire and then Barkley breaks a 50-yarder with a minute left?
For the one that I bought a ticket to the Super Bowl for, that was ideal
Okay.
because I didn't want to be the like even at like 27-0. I was like, I don't want to be the team that blows this.
Were you getting like this is Mahomes 28-3?
It definitely came up, and then 3 seconds later, Deshaun like
Yeah.
or Devonta Smith just caught a bomb. So I was like, all right, I think we're good. But I mean, yeah, that it was just the like I don't want to blow this type of thing, which is just the normal nerves of being a fan. But I mean, it was fun to definitely fun to go to.
Okay.
I recommend if you want like for me, it was like a bucket list thing. Like I don't know if I'll do it again. Not just because of not because I didn't enjoy it, but like it's the thing you do once, and like I'm satisfied.
And Nola Philly Super Bowl. It seems like that's just a great combo, right? Unless you're rich, Miami might be the only other one.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's it for us, guys. Congrats, Bry. Thank you. So it's off season, so we're just doing one pod a week. You can find us on our Sportitos YouTube feed. Check it out, subscribe. I'm gonna start having some of my friends, other people on talking fantasy football, fantasy basketball, talking anything, because I mean, who wants to really talk fantasy football in February, right? We can do it, but we're gonna run out of stuff pretty fast. So Brian, thanks, and I guess we'll see you guys next week.
So you